What's up guys, it's Terrence. I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be going over my 3-wood. As you know, in my last video I went over my driver, and I went over my pre-shot routine, and with my fairway wood, probably all my clubs except for maybe my putter and maybe my wedges around the green. All my pre-shot routines are pretty much the same. So I will be going over that again with you if you haven't seen my other video. So let's get right into it. So as you know, if you watched my last video, that the pre-shot routine is the same. I toe up once, toe up twice. Sometimes I will go back down, and other times I will stop, pause right here, then I'll go all the way up and follow all the way through and get that full swing. So it's pretty much the same. And then once I step up to the ball, I do toe up twice, once, and then twice, and then I make my shot. So the only thing I do different is the swing. I swing a little differently off the tee. It's pretty much the same as the driver. I'll come in a little steeper to it and more at a downward angle, and that gets me, depending on how I come into it, if I come in a little steeper, I'll get a lower ball flight, but it'll tend to have, I call it like an airplane flight. It'll start low and it'll just like go up like an airplane. It's got the curve up. So it'll either do that or it'll just go low. It'll be a stinger sort of almost. And then if I come in a little lower to it, then it'll get a lot higher. That's when I'll tend to draw it a little more. So I'll show you what that's like in full speed. I'll start out pre-shot routine once, twice. I'm gonna go ahead and come all the way back down on this one just to get warmed up and get started. So once, twice, and then now for I'll do once and twice. Now for the shot. Nice solid shot to start it off. If I didn't show you in the last video, I use a little plastic tees. This one's a shorter tee for irons, 3-wood, either in it. I'll probably use a driver with it, but I tend to use a longer tee than my driver. So I'll go over it again one more time. Once, twice, all the way through. So once, twice, and now the shot. Nice solid shot. So that's basically my shot, my swing, my shot, and my pre-shot routine with my 3-wood off of the tee. I will show you what I do off the ground. Pre-shot routine is all the same, except whenever I come through, instead of swinging down and barely buzzing the ground or just not touching the ground, I'll try to hit the ground a little bit at least. Skim it, whatever. So on this, typically whenever I hit a 3-wood, I'll put the ball a little farther forward, basically the same placement as my driver. Off the tee with the 3-wood, I'll put it back just a little bit, a little farther back than my driver, and that's what helps me to strike all the way through it. But on this, I'll move it up a little bit, and whenever I go back, I'll drag it on the go down, you gotta come up into it, and that's what helps you to get height on it. So I'll do that for you real fast. I'll do it for you about 3 or 4 times. So I'll go through the whole pre-shot routine. Once, twice. That's hitting the ground. Once, twice, and now the shot. Typically, sometimes, whenever you're hitting your actual shot, like out on the golf course with the grass, you'll feel like you're chunking almost every shot. But what it is you're coming behind the ball and you're skimming the grass. And then right as you get to the ball, you're picking up. And you could almost just push the ball out there whenever you hit it. And that's what helps you to lift it, because you're coming up into it, so the ball is forced to go up. And I do that almost every time, unless if I've got a bad lie, then I'll come into it to maybe pop it out of it or something like that. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. So on this, I'll go through the pre-shot routine. Once, twice, down, through. Once, twice, and now the shot. Nice clean shot. Typically, a 3-wood off the ground, you won't get very much height. You'll get a couple, maybe 10 yards of height, if that. Maybe only like 20, maybe only like 20 feet or so of height. It won't go very high because it is a 3-wood, so you got the bigger club and a smaller, thinner face, and there's not as much of a degree of angle. It's only like, mine is a 16-degree 3-wood. It's a Cobra. It's a King Cobra F6, and it's got less of a degree of loft, so you aren't going to get as much height with it. So if you're worried that you're not getting very much height, so you're worried about that, and you're trying to figure out what to do, and you're only hitting it like 20 feet in the air, so don't be worried, because typically only like a pro or an adult can get it higher than that. Sometimes kids can, but for me, typically, I'm used to that because I hit it like that all the time. So now I'm going to show you how to hit a shot out of maybe a bad lie or something, or awkward stance. So if you got a bad lie and you're in a dip or something, or you're on a downslope, typically what I'll do is I'll open my stance slightly, and I'll place the ball back in my stance a little bit, more like almost middle. And then I'll press my hands forward, and what I'll do is I'll come in, just like hitting it off the tee, I'll come in steeper, and it just pops it out. It'll be a low stinger almost, and it won't get very much spin, so it'll run out forever if you got dry ground. And it's really good for those longer shots because you got enough room to let it release and roll out, so you don't have to be worried. And you don't get very much height on this at all. It's just a low stinger, but it does get it out of that bad lie. And typically, it's either on a downslope or in the rough, like really thick rough. So I'll show it to you real fast. A lot of times you'll tend to fade this a little bit more because you are coming steeper into it, so a lot of times you'll come across it a little bit, so it'll create a fade. It's not usually a big fade, but it does tend to fade a little bit. And then I'll show you upslope. If you're on an upslope and hill, you'll want to put that ball about middle of the stance again, maybe not quite up over that hill, and you'll get a nice, really pretty amount of height. It's really a sight to see. Now on this nice flat ground, I might hit the ground behind it quite a bit, but I'll still show you the swing plane that you'll take for it. That was really nice. Typically on an upslope that would be really high up into the air. It really helps you so you don't just dig your club straight into the ground and you only get like maybe 3/4 of the distance that you possibly could. It helps you to pick it clean off the ground and you get maybe sometimes more distance and more carry with it than you typically would. I'll go through it one more time. This allows you to have a nice even flow with your swing. You don't hurt your wrist or something trying to come into it at a normal angle or steep, just trying to pop it. Because if you do that, it will jab it into the ground and your wrist will be tight so it'll hurt. And then you'll have to stop playing for a little bit. Now me, typically, I don't stop playing, I just keep going. So that's pretty much how you hit a 3-wood like that. I'll show you how to hit a fade and a draw with it. Typically I tend to hit a higher fade than a draw, because with a draw you're shutting down the club face and you're taking out the loft, so it tends to go up a little bit and then just go straight down and left. But you do tend to get a lot of roll. But depending on how you hit it, if you have just that perfect swing plane, you'll get a lot of height and about a 10 to 15 yard draw. And then the fade, you have to come across it and open the blade up and come in with the leading edge as the heel, so that way it hits the heel and it spins off. So what the ball will do is it will hit the heel right here, right there on the club. And as you come through, it will roll off. So it'll create that right hand spin. Whenever it goes up, it curves to the right and goes, it typically goes higher than normal and tends to go a lot right. This really helps if you got limbs in your way and you got to hit a fade around, but you want to get as much distance as possible. This really helps. So you open your stance. I open my stance very slightly, and I'll open the club a little bit, but I will place the ball a little bit back, not quite middle, and I'll aim just left of my target, maybe a little more. And what I'll do is I'll come really steep into it, and I'll come across it slightly. Maybe sometimes I'll come in at a normal plane, I'll just come across it, but other times I'll go almost straight down on it, nearly. So I'll show that to you. And if you notice there, I had kind of a helicopter finish. It's just like Arnold Palmer. You go through and you just whip around just like that. Sometimes I'll tend to do that with a fade because I try to keep my hands up and higher, so it helps that fade more, because you come across and then you just go up and then you just whip around. It's like a helicopter. So I'll do that a couple more times for you. That one would be fading a good 15 to 20 yards. It'd have maybe just a little over 3/4 of your normal amount of carry distance, but it'd still be a really good shot for what you, depending on how much you'd want to fade it. 15 to 20 yard fade. If you need to fade it that much, it'd be perfect. Now I'll show you how to do a draw. Typically, I'll put it a little further back in my stance again. Maybe sometimes forward, sometimes back. It just depends on how I'm hitting it that day. And then I'll leave the face square, but I'll put my left hand, I'll put it over on top just a little more, and then I'll grip it a little tighter, so that way it causes me to whip around at the end. And what it'll do is it'll shut down that club face. And depending on how you hit it, it'll either go up and draw, or it'll stay low and just draw gradually. And I don't open my stance any. I just leave it square, leave my shoulders square. I'll show you what that is, just right here. That one would be typically that one would be a little lower. It has a good 10-yard draw in it, but it depends on how you want to hit it. The more over you get it, the more it'll draw. And a lot of times, if you really want to draw it that badly, what you do is you take this hand and move it over here a little more, and this hand a little over. So it causes you to turn over to get both hands straight. And then you'll turn it over to get, this hand will typically want to go over on top. So it'll turn and it'll create a little bit of a draw. It's typically nice whenever you've got a dog leg left in front of you and it's a par 5. It's really awesome. Or you just want to get a lot of rollout on your 3-wood. This works too. Oh yes, that one would be drawing a good 10 to 15 yards again, but it'd be nice and high. I came into that one like a normal 3-wood shot. I just closed down the club face right after impact. So it's kind of like a gun. After you pull the trigger, you can't jerk on it. You got to keep it nice and still after you shot. And it's just like a golf club. If you want to hit it straight, you got to keep it straight and maintain that same plane all the way through. So if you've got the toe up right here, straight up and down, you got to have it straight up and down right there on the other side. Or depending on your swing, it may change a little bit, but if you close the club face right after impact, it'll tend to make the ball draw. If you open it at impact and after impact, it'll fade the ball. I'll hit a draw for you again. That one would draw a nice little amount. And that's typically how I tend to hit a draw. If you got a different way that you like to do it, then stick to your natural, what feels comfortable to you. I'm just here to give you a couple tips if you're looking for some. Wanting to know how to draw it, fade it, how to hit it proper, to me anyways. All this stuff works for me. So let me know if you like the video by leaving a like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you get notified every time I make a new video, and that will wrap up this video. So I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.